All right, so we appear to be stable at this point, so you guys can start.
Okay. All right, so I call this meeting to order, and will you all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Are there any changes to the agenda? Nope. Alrighty. Then we're open for public comments.
All right, so yeah, as per usual, if you have a public comment you'd like to make, please raise your hand via the Zoom feature, and first, last name, town of residence, please, and thank you.
Nothing? Okay, great. Moving on then. Superintendents report.
All right, so I have I don't know if it's short, but it's a short-term report. Just a different view of some of the COVID-19 items that we haven't been necessarily putting out there. And so a couple weeks ago, we decided that we would start to collect more information and then be able to present it on, well, we already had the absences due to illness, but we also thought it would be of value for you to see the absences due to quarantine, as a percentage of the entire population and so forth across the district, or if necessary across the school. That would be an important thing to look at if we had, an incredible number of individuals who had to quarantine due to COVID or possible. I mean, usually it's possible COVID situations as well. At home we get phone calls from families saying that they're getting tested, so they're keeping their kids home and so forth. So we include them in that information. Just so that we have that information. You've seen the information online with the community dashboard, the direction that's going. I would say that from a town standpoint, it ebbs and flows. We're still higher than Jaffrey at this point in time. And then we are in a process of having some architectural work done, just kind of some design, some focus, if we can kind of scroll that up a little bit, we have several different areas that we're looking at. Some of it has to do with just the way the building and the grounds look. Not a whole lot has been done on that part of it. We've had some electronic plans developed. A lot of the work, if you were to summarize this chart that we put together, and what I did was I took the update from February 1st and just put it side by side with the update that we got from February 15th, so you can see what has changed, what has not changed. I've highlighted some areas there that is a little bit different. Bathroom work is what has been coming up. This is an area that we told the architects was extraordinarily important for us in all our schools, is really the bathrooms. Giving them more modern, more efficient, but also to make sure that we have the right setups for privacy for all. That was important, and so I think that there's a little bit of work to do. We knew there would be work for that to do, and right now they talk about making sure that they get all the code requirements set. We had a lot of conversation, if you want to scroll all the way down, during the budget season about adequacy, and due to the restrictions that we put in place, or I shouldn't say restrictions, just some safety measures that we put into place. We did have a decrease in student enrollment this year, in particular in the town of Ringe. That impacts both Jaffrey and Ringe with the revenue that comes in for the following year, more so Ringe than it does Jaffrey in this particular case. That being said, there are a couple Senate bills out there that are seeking to address this. Senate Bill 145 is one that has a little more to it. And I've included the paragraph that I was sent from the New Hampshire School Administrators Association. So at any point in time, if you want to speak out about these, we can get you links to sign up for someone to testify, or just to say, I support this or don't support this as a citizen, and that's perfectly fine. And so I've been doing that on a lot of these bills, saying, the ones I've shown you, these, as well as House Bill 20, which was the voucher bill. Again, simply because there's a lot of issues with it. Not the concept of choice. I think choice is not a bad concept, but how it hopes to get there, and at the expense and who loses and wins, in a sense. That's the real issue at hand. I think another COVID-19 update, obviously the middle school, high school I had put out last week that Friday and today they would be remote due to the rooftop unit. And so that has all been fixed. The individuals here today making sure that we're all working properly, so everything's in good order that way. I do believe, we have a transfer for later on down to talk about the Turner group coming in, because we've had a couple engineering groups come in, talk to us about our systems, how we prepared. The last one said we've done a lot and that we've done a great job. That being the case, this district, and I don't think any district has ever been in a situation, very not likely anyway, that they have kept their airflow systems going at such a high rate all the time. And so we're midway, we're in February, right? So we're midway through, or a little bit over midway through the winter season, and certainly during some cold times. So that can take a toll on systems. And so what we've wanted to do in talking to John LeClaire is bring another group in to take a look at all of the systems and make sure that they're operating as they're supposed to be, because all the other data is based upon them working properly. So we need to make sure that they are still indeed doing so, and if not, to act accordingly, to make sure that we are doing our job with those air handling systems that are in each school.
And part of the Turner is also that they're going to help come up with like a schedule then also going forward?
Yeah, I mean, we've had some individuals kind of give us information before about end of life and all that, and we've got some great people working here who are really doing a nice job keeping the equipment going very well. And we've got relatively new controls and systems, and we can control things very well, which is great, better than a lot of places. But yeah, they'll look at that. This will help them additionally look at that and be able to give us some suggestions on that. Certainly, we know that we've already had some 5-year planning that needs to be done, and that's currently underway. And that's not just about air systems; it's about everything we're talking about with fields and anything else that's from a engineering or in this case Turner. They're doing the architectural work, all of that. And what we've been talking about this budget season with parking lots, right? So really 2 or 3 budget seasons now.
Yeah.
So all very important work that needs to be done, and I think we're making some progress.
Great. Any questions for the superintendent? Comments? Nope. All right. Thank you. And let's move on to the consent agenda. Need a motion? Or is there any changes? Let me ask that question first. Any changes before I ask for a motion? Alicia, are you okay with these?
I'm sorry, I need to pull minutes.
Okay. Which one?
All of them.
All of them? Okay, so.
Just doesn't have to deliver that. That's that Monday before.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I did double check.
Okay.
So that all pulled out? Is that all we're pulling out?
I think that's all we're pulling out, is the minutes, the meetings.
Okay.
Everything else is,
So I move we accept the consent agenda with the exception of the minutes.
okay. Thank you, Charlie.
Second.
Thank you, Laurel. And I don't have to do roll call. We're all sitting here. Oh, nice. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain?
I'm not seeing.
Right, not from this yet. I'm sorry. I'm all out of practice
I
being
get
in
to put on
person.
this
Okay,
I
great.
move we accept the meeting minutes as presented.
Thank you, Laurel. Thank you, Patty. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstain? Thank you. That passes 601. Okay, discussion. All right, so I asked for this to be put on our agenda. We always have, discussions around needs that we have relating to COVID. And we've been at this for about a year now, and it's taking its toll on students and I believe on staff as well. And I just want to make sure that that everyone is aware of what's available to them to help them with any kind of anxiety, stress, whatever they might be experiencing, and where they can get help, how the district can help them with that. So I guess I've asked for it to be put on so that we can maybe have a brief discussion about it, but also, Ruben, to make sure that you have a conversation with the administrators have with the staff with the students, if need be, as to what's available.
Mhm.
So maybe we can talk quickly about things that are available.
Yeah, sure. So I think that we've done a nice job. I mean, we're here in person by and large with the students because of social emotional well-being, and I think that we have a lot of good things going on. I think our staff does a great job with connecting with our kids just as a norm.
Mm-hmm.
But also we have those, if you were at the education committee a couple, maybe last month, what we call tier 2 and tier 3 supports.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly we've had more intensive needs this year in pockets. We've had more concerning behaviors that we've seen digitally. But I think that, our staff is doing a good job in working on that. But that takes a toll. I think in a normal year, I think it takes a toll on the adults. And so I think this, certainly being anything but normal, has definitely, caused more anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
more nervousness. And I think it's from, the SAU to, the classroom, and certainly the administrators as well. They're not out of that. There's everyone has a different situation, and so I talked to HR, and we do have some support through our medical insurance, and that that people can take advantage of. So that
Right.
would be, that would be important to do.
So if someone doesn't take medical insurance with us, they still have that option?
Yeah, that I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to go check, but I think that.
I know that once upon a time there was that case where there's a few visits that are kind of, but I don't know where it is now, so.
Right. I mean, we also have some good community partners that, primarily for the purpose of working with our learners, but we can certainly get into contact with them more about how it is we can support all of our school population.
And what if a parent is noticing some issues with the student, is there a process that they can get in touch with and talk with someone at the school?
Well, definitely if a parent out there is seeing some troublesome behavior or some warning signs or has come across something that they've been searching for online, all of these things have been happening. And like again, it happens in a normal situation. It's just that it's been increased. That they should definitely contact. Don't hold it in. Contact their child's. They can contact the teacher. They can also contact the advisor that they have in the secondary school. I say teacher because the elementaries are usually in that classroom, and that's the person who knows the student the best. And certainly the administration, who can, they're the ones, the principals of the school, assistant principals of the school, are the ones who can best direct individuals to resources or get those resources. I've received quite a few calls. I get a lot of emails. I'm not the best person for that. I'm the furthest away from it often. I direct it to the people who need it. So it's fine. We get things done.
It's just an extra step.
But it's an extra step. It's
Right. Sorry, I feel like I've been kind of monopolizing this, and I don't want to monopolize it from other board. If there's other members who have thoughts or comments.
Well, this is Patty speaking, I certainly have seen an uptick in offerings by the River Center. If folks aren't comfortable going to the school, if it's something that they want to deal with in-house or in their house or in the family. But there certainly are a lot more resources now for families, for children with anxiety and other issues. So I certainly think there's more out there. I think folks probably aren't as comfortable. But there are times that those steps need to be taken.
Thanks.
I'm curious, do you have, just jumping off of what Patty said, a running list of community resources or places that we can direct people towards that may not be new to the school, both staff and families, that perhaps we could put on the website for easy one-stop shopping? So people can see and know, what their options are.
Yeah, I'm also thinking like in Thursday notes at the elementary, we can go there, and the newsletter at the middle school, high school.
And I know we see a lot of the River Center things like Patty mentioned, but I'm sure there are other resources within the community that we could direct people towards.
And maybe also in staff
as well.
We created a wellness page back in the spring, and I'm not sure how often people are finding their way to that spot, but it might be a good place to add this as well.
Yeah.
Just add a section.
Right. So again, in Thursday notes, maybe direct people to that page as well.
And if we can maybe, just since this is, we know it's always a topic of conversation, but with everything going on in the world, I think it's even more at the forefront of everybody's mind. So I don't know if there's a way, and we may be able to answer this, if we can get it like on the homepage of the website. So it's just easy to find. It's not very, it's easily accessible. It can perhaps link to the resources that the wellness committee has already compiled. Make it easier for people.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly put things almost anywhere. I'm just gonna use my phone to go to the main page right now. So, like, for example, I'm just looking at my phone right now. I'll just pull up the computer because it's a little bit easier. So you go to the website, and what I've done is, in addition to this red bar, I'm trying to find as many places as possible to just duplicate like newsworthy things in particular. So in addition to the red bar, you can go to news, and it breaks it down by like the different categories. But also, if you scroll down a little bit, you have like
Headlines.
resources, athletics activities, SAE 47, and then things for each school. But if you go to this resource thing, like this, where we have our matrix, that you can click over important documents, frequently asked questions, wellness resources, emotional early on, we had posted a few emotional health and mental well-being resources. So like we have like all of it there. You know, we could probably, now that everybody knows all of these resources, we can probably put it, you know, back front and center.
Yeah.
And just, maybe I can just put a note underneath news that says like, all of these are scrollable through the arrows. You know, you can go through and you can find,
That way it's just not so clear.
you know, various things, you know, through there. Like I've tried to have it all on that main page, but I can try to work on ways to make it even that more.
Highlighted
Yeah.
a bit. I already appreciate that.
Great. Any other comments, questions on this topic?
Thank you.
All right, thanks very much. Okay, action items, the reopening framework change.
Yeah, so I can speak to this.
Yes, we say.
So this is just, you know, a situation that we've run into now that we've had maybe, let's say we've had either a staff member or some students who are done with their isolation, or, you know,
Mhm.
do they have to go through all the same process that everyone else has to go through? Yeah, we still need to wear the masks 6 feet apart. All of those things are still important. We don't stop those, but do they have the same criteria to have to, for instance, if they're in close contact with someone, they've gone out grocery shopping or whatever, like, do they have to do that? And the answer here will be, at least for 90 days, if someone's tested positive, no.
Mhm.
According to the CDC and doctors, your local, you know, certainly your local clinics. And then vaccines, you know, most of us have not been vaccinated at this point in time, but that is supposed to be coming along. And so what then? And some definition basically of what is fully vaccinated. So there's, you know, a student or staff member is fully vaccinated against COVID-19 and more than 14 days have passed since you received your final dose of the vaccination. So even when vaccinated, they're recommending for 2 full
Yeah, you've
weeks.
got to have those 2 full weeks
Yeah,
for it to create
afterwards.
the antibodies.
Exactly. So that's the, it doesn't have a whole lot of impact right now, but I think it's just for the future.
Yeah. Great. Okay. So,
We might have to change
Yeah,
the graphic again to have another arrow going in a different direction or something
Yeah.
like that, but
well, there's a couple of other areas that we're, you know, looking at, because obviously things continue to update. But this was kind of the big one right now that was like a really, it's a CDC recommendation, it's a DPHS recommendation. I know the CDC just released a bunch of documents and whatnot.
and we're looking at a webinar on Wednesday with the new CDC.
yes, I saw that. I was going to jump on that. All right. So we need to take a vote to accept this.
I move we accept the proposed changes to the reopening framework.
Thank you, Laurel.
I'll second.
Alicia? Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, abstain? All right, 3700. All right, the program of studies and the new courses graduation requirements.
So I will start off by saying that those are very JRMS, CHS heavy. And so I have talked to Mr. Dustin, and I think maybe even some other admins at the high school, middle school. They, I believe, are online here, so and ready to answer any questions that you might have concerning these. We received them for kind of like a first reading, I guess, you know, as receipt last time.
Yep.
And so we talked a little bit about some of them at the education committee, but certainly if you need to, Nick, you would probably be able to allow
Yeah.
them to
Yeah.
talk. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm pretty,
Everything
I'm happy to
over.
attach them in if anybody has questions.
I have a couple of questions that David could probably answer. You want me to?
Well, yeah, I think we ought to get,
Let's get David on here.
might as well just get him on, yeah.
All right, just promoted him to a panelist, so he has the ability to.
Can everyone hear me?
speak over.
Hey there.
Hey there. Nick, can you go to the JRMS program of studies to, I think it's the electronic page 7, page 6 of the document. And David, I just noticed it mentions, I think it was just maybe a cut and paste issue. It mentioned senior privileges.
Is it under the work habits piece?
Yeah, under work habits, it just discusses, yeah, it says senior privilege. I don't know, maybe it's fine, but it just seemed like it didn't belong in the JRMS.
Nope, you're exactly right. We'll strike that out. The idea of that was just that work habits are, part of how we assess learning and things like that, but you're exactly right. We can strike that out for sure. And same with work release.
And then also sort of a similar, I think, just some housekeeping stuff in the health and wellness part, page 7, the electronic page 17, Nick. Under grade 7, wellness makes reference to grade 6.
So the electronic page
So,
17.
yeah, it's here. So look under grade 7 wellness education, and it refers to grade 6 learners in that last sentence.
Okay, yep, that should say for grade 7 on that one. Thank you.
No problem. And I was looking at these more closely just because of, I've been working on the wellness policy, so I was interested in it. So I was just wondering too, in grade 6 and 7, it doesn't really mention what the physical activity, it mentions physical activity, but it doesn't mention what physical activity or physical education the students are involved in. And then as you see where it says JRMS physical education, it only says grade 8. So I guess I'm just wondering if under wellness education for grade 6 and 7, there should be some mention of what their physical activity will be, unless I'm not understanding this correctly.
Or examples of what it could
Yeah.
be.
So the wellness classes in grade 6 and 7 were designed to combine the physical education learning goals and the health education learning goals that are specific to grade 6 and 7. And then when they get to grade 8, the learners then have a separated health and PE class to focus more specifically on integrating the PE skills into a deliberate class there and the health skills into that particular health class. So
Okay.
the learning goals, sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. That's basically what I had understood it to be. And it does say that it, meets the requirements for health education and physical education, but it doesn't necessarily say what types of activities will be involved.
And we can definitely add some more language in there. The descriptions here are supposed to be just sort of quick snapshots of the course. And then the learning goals that the teachers would be using are obviously more specific, but I don't think it hurts at all to put a little bit more information about the physical activity in there, maybe 1 or 2 lines.
All right, and thank you. And then under the CHS program of studies, as it stands now, our students take 1 half credit of PE, and then if they play a sport, they're able to count that. And then I noticed it was also team sports was mentioned, and can you just talk a little bit more about that? So I did not write down what page that was, but it would have been under the physical education under CHS.
So team sports is a specific course that we've offered for a few years now. That's like it's a more advanced look, excuse me, at some of the team sports that they've maybe dabbled in or had a foundation in the co-ed PE class. So for a learner who doesn't want to take co-ed PE twice, but also isn't on a sports team or just has an interest in those specific team sports, that offers a deeper dive into those. Okay. Versus the varsity sport sort of half credit opt-out is just, if you've gotten a varsity sport, you get that half credit.
Okay, I didn't realize that was in class, so thank you. And then
you're welcome.
One last thing was you've referred to in the program of studies, I think it refers to the freshman foundations class, but then on the document for the graduation requirements, I think it's, one place is called Career Foundations and the other Freshman Foundations, and I believe that's meant to be the same thing. Am I?
You are correct. That is meant to be the same thing. Yep.
So I'm just wondering if maybe some consistency with what is called would be helpful. Better. Because I think here at the bottom, if we keep going, you have Career Foundations, but then in the program of studies is called Freshman.
Yeah, I think, what's been tricky for us with navigating that intention is we don't want the Freshman Foundations course to be restrictive to a learner who might need more time than that course provides. So our idea was that the Career Foundations learning goals should be required and would add up to 1 credit. And the way that most learners will achieve that will be through that Freshman Foundations course freshman year. But if a learner is unable to complete it within that time frame, they could still meet the learning goals for that Freshman Foundation, or excuse me, Career Foundations in future years and still have met that graduation requirement.
I think that's it then.
So what you're saying, David, for clarification, is Career Foundations is not really a class. It's what the student is going to be able to show they understand and can do within what is expected within Career Foundations. Freshman Foundations is a class that may very well help a student or learner learn what is necessary for the
Right. Right, exactly. It's sort of like how in math class we expect learners to take 3 math courses and show proficiency through that, but we don't necessarily have just one way for a learner to do that. It's similar here. All freshmen will take the Freshman Foundations as the best way for them to meet those learning goals for that Career Foundations requirement. But if they don't meet them through that course and they need additional time, or if they come in and they're coming into their sophomore or junior year, but they're part of that same graduating class, in 2 years, let's say, we would still want to have a way to be able to measure that requirement and still support learners through that.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other
You're welcome.
questions or comments? Laurel?
Hi, David.
Hey, Laurel.
So my questions are all about math.
Excellent.
Surprise. So when I look at the middle school course of studies and the descriptions for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, there's very little to differentiate them. So 6th grade talks about fractions and decimals and a bunch of stuff. And 8th grade talks about inequalities and the same bunch of stuff. And then 8th grade talks about building and interpreting functions and the same bunch of stuff. So I'm curious if there's a way to incorporate in the description somehow how rigor or progress is expected moving from 6th, 7th to 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's very little difference in the descriptions of what the course includes.
Yeah, we identified that challenge, I guess, across a lot of the JRMS program of studies 2 years ago when we worked on creating it. What we found is that a lot of the descriptions were good for starting off, but really are lacking in sort of detail. And we started down the rabbit hole of trying to adjust those. I don't even care for the titles of the courses. I think grade 6, grade 7, and grade 8 mathematics doesn't, again, capture the fact that we base learning on learning goals and not just the names or grade levels of courses. So we started down the rabbit hole this year of making some adjustments, and it's turned into a lot larger of a project than we were anticipating. But that's a longer term goal for next year, especially, is to make sure that the middle level courses are more robust in their titles and certainly in their descriptions to better capture the learning goals.
Okay, terrific. So that's a work in progress.
Yes.
And then in terms of a middle schooler taking algebra, is the only option honors? And I think this year there's an 8th grade algebra class, right, that isn't honors?
So all of the 8th graders who are taking algebra are 8th graders who have demonstrated that they're sort of accelerated in their math progressions. And if they were to take a CCP level algebra course in 8th grade, because the CCP and honors levels move at different paces with math, for example, the Algebra 1 CCP and Geometry CCP class don't prepare learners for the Algebra 2 honors class directly. There's always a remediation step that would have to take place in there. What we found is that if a learner is accelerated in math and is taking a full algebra course in 8th grade, if they were to take the CCP class, it would actually place them onto a track that's more difficult for them to remain sort of accelerated versus being in the honors class. So with 8th grade for the last 2 years, we've only been offering the honors option for 8th graders because otherwise 8th grade math is appropriate to build those foundations for them.
So there is an 8th grade algebra class this year, right?
There's Algebra 1 honors classes that are taught by the 8th grade math teacher.
Okay. Maybe the students don't understand that it's honors.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I have such a student in robotics, and she doesn't understand that it's honors. It just, she said, "Oh no, I'm not in honors."
Oh yes, she is. I mean, there's always, I shouldn't say that, there's always exceptions, and there's always the possibility that a learner was somewhere in between and a decision was made to allow them into a regular CCP class. But the vast majority of 8th graders taking that accelerated math sort of lane are in the honors Algebra 1 that's taught by the 8th grade teacher.
Thank you. And then for high school math, sort of as a general comment or question, I guess, are there any thoughts of migrating over time, I understand, to a curriculum that is less traditional algebra, geometry, trigonometry, and to one that is perhaps, I'll say, more useful for today's learners in terms of application and data organization and analysis?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, what's interesting is the timing of your question. Our math team had reached out to me 3 weeks ago or so with sort of that exact, I guess, creative juice or wanting to do something that met the needs of more learners. And they recognized that a lot of learners were not having their future needs met by, for example, taking Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2. And as a result, the Algebra 2 classes were filling up with a lot of learners who needed a math course, but didn't necessarily need Algebra 2 as their math course and were struggling, therefore, to sort of connect with the material. So they advocated and created already for this year a career math program that's going to focus on a lot more integration with STEM and doing some career sorts of math applications like statistics, budgeting, some blueprint designs and readings and things like that using math skills. And their goal is to create additional courses next year. They just didn't feel they had the time this year to do that, but they have requested additional time to work with Mrs. Schulman, who's been a wonderful resource in helping to identify curriculum and finding the integration. They've already reached out for some more time to keep building some more courses for future years.
Right.
So we're excited about the career math for this year, but that is, again, a sort of a work in progress.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much.
David,
You're welcome.
not to belabor this, I like math. The career math when I taught career math 20 years ago, it was very remedial in nature. This is different, right?
Yeah, this is not designed as a remedial course at all. They've designed it as an interest-based course for learners with specific career futures that still require math skills, but don't necessarily require, the traditional Algebra 2 math skills, for example. So in the description they've created and in the learning goals they're pulling, they're focusing on gauging learner interest and using pre-assessment to figure out where learners are starting off, and then using those learner interests and specific career goals to design with the learners the course that sort of they'll follow through. So the idea isn't remediation so much as usefulness of the math material and allowing for a better option for learners who don't need an intensive sort of traditional Algebra 2 program.
I'll make a comment that I really like in the high school one where you're talking about the ATC courses, the way that we're now looking at the building trades. I like the structure. It's the modules. It's very clear. There's a focus for each one. So it's very clear what's going to be happening. So I just really like the direction that we're going in there.
Thank you.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you have some items in the middle school one that kind of help feed into that a little bit.
Yeah, the STEM pathway in the middle school, you know, Mr. Meehan, who's been teaching STEM in the middle school for a few years now, has done a nice job building a foundational robotics and design and modeling program. And his feedback for a long time has been that there's too much material to cover, obviously, and too many avenues to go with those courses. So we're going to continue to offer those and have every 7th and 8th grader take part in those courses. And we're adding that 6th grade STEM explorations class to build some of the inquiry thinking and, again, help learners to see the possibility that can take place with STEM instruction. And then continuing in the high school, learners can then more easily see how the foundations that they're doing with their STEM classes in the middle school and taking part in Mr. Meehan's design and modeling, for example, how those things can feed into specific courses like construction trades or the STEM pathways to dig deeper when they get into high school. And we're also adding some art and music classes, like an intro to photography class. That's an 8th grade and above class that bears credit, but that could also prepare a learner very nicely for taking the more advanced photography options offered at Conval. So that's just another example of how we're trying to use more of that sort of STEM and UA options, especially with 8th grade and above, to help learners, you know, make some decisions and see some opportunities when they get into high school.
Great. Anything else for David? Okay, thank you, David.
You're welcome.
All right, so do we want to take these one by one or?
I move we approve all three.
Sounds good.
Okay, so Laurel moves that we approve the middle school, high school, and the new courses and graduation requirements.
Second.
Thank you, Charlie. And
The edits that.
with the edits.
With the edits as discussed.
Right, okay. So Laurel, Charlie, and all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, carried 7-0-0. Great, thank you. All right, so we're up to first reading on a couple policies.
No good. No questions.
No questions? Any comments? Okay, well, I'll just say thanks to,
So some of the numbering has to be corrected.
sorry, say again?
I said some of the numbering has to be corrected.
The numbering has to be.
Yes.
Okay,
That will take place before the second reading.
okay,
The list order?
yes.
Are you talking about the actual, just the numbers need to be changed or that you're moving things around?
Oh, yeah, so, yeah, you go 1, 2, 3, 5.
I can fix all that
Yeah.
in like,
That's-
when we're actually reformatting after it's approved.
Yeah, it's easier to do it then, because
Yeah.
if you try and do it when you're in the middle of editing,
Yeah.
it's too chaotic.
Yeah.
So usually Nick finesses it and puts the new.
Like you can even see
format.
in this on like the second page, like this BEDH, like way down at the bottom is actually supposed to be like way up
Up at
here.
the top, right.
So it's just sometimes when things get edited in certain ways,
They
they just
move.
get really wonky. So I'll make sure that those are all corrected when the final approval is made.
You did a good job, Charlie. Thank you for your help with that.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, so that's the first reading. Now we have then also a policy up for the second reading.
The first reading was a long time ago, right?
Very
Yeah,
long time ago.
I know.
Yeah, I can explain this one.
I'm like, wow. now, when did that?
Mick came to me, goes, we had this a long time ago. Oh, okay, was it a first reading? Yep, yeah, stick it on for
So there was a
second.
conversation in the SAU office about a credit card policy, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure we approved the credit card policy like a while ago.
There were a bunch of questions.
There were questions, and what happened was it was the meeting before COVID.
Ah.
So then we got into COVID stuff, it got put on a shelf, we lost track of it, so
Is
it's
this,
here.
is this a new policy?
This would be a new
It'll be a new
policy.
policy.
Okay.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be approved tonight, but it was on a second reading, it got tabled as a second reading, so I just
We
brought it.
said, because we had it as a first reading before, we said, well, we can
So
always have a
first
third.
reading a
We
year
can have a third or a
ago.
fourth reading if we need to, but
Second reading a year later.
we should get it back on the.
So maybe we'll like actually move on it next year? I don't know.
So one of the questions was, well, first of all, the credit cards the district has are the gas station, Tractor Supply, and Walmart.
It's, I know,
Tractor Supply, yes. Walmart, I think that no longer.
oh,
And I think, yes, I don't know if we have one. I know we get cards for the drivers to use for the gas station.
That, I thought that was the response, that was a part of it.
That's what I remember as well.
Okay.
And the only question with that was, how does fuel work when community transportation is doing transportation that's not affiliated with this district? How does that work? That was the one question then.
Laura, can you say that again? How does fuel work on what?
When community transportation is doing transportation that's not for this district. Because some of their buses, a lot of their buses say our district name, they're only used for this district. But some of the buses say community transportation, and they're used for other.
Perhaps like for students going to out-of-district placements, things like that, or sporting events maybe at times.
The scenic,
Well, right,
Or
well,
other-
the scenic,
or-
so.
or other entities rent the bus. And that's why they have that in their contract, that some of the buses say community transportation, so that they can use them for other purposes if they have the opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, I think they take pretty good care of that, but obviously the buses they use for Messinic are the ones they use for Messinic, and they have a different type of contract with them than they do for us. But sporting events, or if they are doing other things like you're talking about, renting out buses, or we might have some smaller buses that go around to out-of-district placements and so forth.
Well, we should pay this.
I would have to check out the process that they use to answer that completely correctly.
Is there a, oh, it says as needed. Nothing. Is there any way the district can have a Prime account?
Amazon? Well, I think that's what got this actually started
Okay.
as a conversation, is just to see how better, or how more efficient we can be with our purchasing. But we couldn't do anything without a policy in place first.
Okay.
But there's some good questions.
so where's the board? Do we need a third reading here, or are we ready to move on this? How do you think about it? Or forget about it?
I make a motion that we approve policy DGD, school district credit cards.
All right, thank you, Patty.
One second.
Heidi, thank you. All those in favor? Aye? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
I oppose. I don't understand how the current works and how this would address that.
Okay. So we have 610. So we're at board committee. Facilities. We haven't.
So facilities committee met, what, a week ago Friday? Something like that. Last week? Whenever we met. Primarily about parking lots. We're expecting a bid next week.
Or at the end of this week, anyway, yeah. At
Um,
the end of this week, possibly next week.
The 17th, I guess.
Yeah,
That's
Which
This
is
week,
very
this week, yeah.
exciting. We unfortunately did pull JGS off the bid because that parking lot requires full depth reconstruction. So it will have to be priced and be contemplated for next year. We also discussed possibilities for RMS, and in the meantime, I believe that John has met with Kelly to discuss the number of spaces that need to be available at RMS, and now we can move into planning phase and find land developer to develop drawings. You heard the update on Turner. There's not much progress there. We hope to see an improvement after John meets with them next week. There was a test done of the emergency generator here in middle school, and we received a line diagram apparently illustrating what is powered by that generator. It's unclear to me what is actually powered by the generator looking at the line diagram, but I suspect there's someone here that can really understand it and summarize it for the facilities committee.
Any questions for facilities? Thanks. Really looking forward to parking lots. All right, policy. I know we just went over, but is there anything that?
We are scheduled to meet next Thursday, this year meeting.
Okay.
No, that's probably what they do.
Can't hear.
She said you're scheduled to meet next Thursday?
I believe so.
Yep.
Barring a snowstorm.
Seems to be when they happen, huh? All right, wellness?
We met this past, a week ago today, last Monday. We're continuing to work on getting the pieces in place for the trail project, working on the policy, which I will send to the policy committee this week. And it may be good to have a conversation. So I don't know if it is possible to put that on your agenda for next Thursday, but something, then I would be happy to join you and see if Leanne can as well. What time do you meet? 5:30. Okay, so we're working on that, and one of the things when we were having that conversation earlier, we've been doing wellness notes in the Thursday notes and in the bird's nest, the notes from the bird's nest. So I feel like it's a place where we could also put some of the mental health pieces in. Let's see. And also just trying to work to get to a Wellness Wednesday challenge together for students. We're hoping to do it before vacation. I'm not sure if we're going to do that, but again, just trying to come up with fun activities for kids to do that are ways that they can just have some fun, that doesn't put a ton of pressure on, you know, the teaching staff that organize it, and huge amount of pressure on parents, but just to throw some fun ideas out there. So we're continuing to work. We didn't settle on our next meeting date, but it'll probably be beginning of March.
All right, great. Any questions?
Heidi, maybe there should be frisbee golf set up around this campus.
What's that?
Frisbee golf around this campus.
Frisbee golf? Oh, yeah.
Always.
Great. All right, any other questions, comments for wellness? All right, thanks. I did notice it was in the bird's nest It's nice to see it. Thank you. All right, public comments, part 2.
Again, just raise your hand with hand raise feature and we can address you. We do have one already. It is from Mark Healy.
Hi, thank you. Mark Haley from Keene, New Hampshire, and 8th grade ELA. I'm not sure if it was the last meeting or the one before, but Patty had mentioned that she contacted the state to advocate for teachers receiving vaccines in a earlier fashion than was already listed out in their plan. I was just curious if any other board members or the board of the district as a whole had sort of followed her lead and done the same thing. Thank you.
As far as I understand, educators are in the current cohort.
No,
2A.
2A, next cohort.
They are?
Yeah.
I thought I read that they're in 1B.
No.
No.
Oh, my apologies.
I think it was Friday. I'm not sure. Governor Sununu was, was he on? He was interviewed recently, trying to think of where, but he did not make any changes, unfortunately. Or they.
Any others? Nope. All right. Board matters. There's the webinar on Wednesday afternoon. Is it 2 o'clock or 4 o'clock? I can't remember.
3 o'clock.
Well, right in between. Okay. 3 o'clock.
Yeah, everybody should have received the email from the School Board Association for that.
Right. All right. Anything else for future items? We are having a rolling update on the technology.
Is it okay if I say that candidates night is a week from Thursday?
The 25th.
The 25th?
In Jaffrey.
In Jaffrey,
Yeah, in Jaffrey.
Via Zoom.
2:25 via Zoom.
I don't have any information on how to do that, but it should be on the town website.
The town website, yeah. Okay. And Charlie, do you know when's the Ringe candidates? And is it live or Zoom?
I don't know.
Okay.
Typically it's on a Monday though.
So check out the Ringe. Well, there, I know we're
I
going
haven't
on a
seen any
write-in.
announcements on it.
So, okay. All right. Well, if there's nothing else,
I move we adjourn.
thank you, Laurel. And Alicia, you second that. And with that, we are done. Thank you, everyone.
Night.